Everyone is speaking out about the Calgary Flames and their current odds to make the Stanley Cup Playoffs. In a year where the Flames were expected to finish bottom 5 and have endured multiple injuries and suspensions, the team is in the mix as we approach April. The statistics tell one story, while history shows another. We're going to get into all that more in this video, but first I want to welcome you to Flames Digest. I'm Mark Griffith. If you're new around here and you love the Flames, make sure you subscribe so you can stay up to date on all the latest news, updates, reports, and rumors revolving around your Calgary Flames. We would love to welcome you to the Flames Digest family, and everyone's talking about the Flames potentially making the playoffs. But in order to do that, we got to talk about some playoff odds, and the odds might be against the Flames right now in a way. Obviously, the odds are a lot higher than anyone expected in late March heading into the season, but it has been a season, full of everything, really. And, before we get into the actual percentages of making it, we have to take a look at the standings, as since the last time I uploaded a video, the St. Louis Blues have played and have won once again. So the Flames now come into this week 4 points behind the St. Louis Blues, but with 3 games in hand. Again, the callback to our back-to-back games in St. Louis, the kind of mini baseball series, if you will, against the Blues a few months ago. Oh my goodness, we would be absolutely gunning for the second wildcard spot had we won both those games instead of losing both in regulation. It very well may come down to that. But we are still ahead of Vancouver, 1 point up on the Canucks with a game in hand on them as well. Utah, the only other team really in the race at all, they're actually 6 points behind the Blues now, 2 points back of Calgary, and the Flames have a game in hand on them as well. The Pacific standings, they're kind of just out of it at this point. I always include them just if somehow the Kings or Oilers somehow fall off. I know the Oilers are dealing with some injuries, but so far things have been so smooth. But on that note, when the Flames do play the Oilers coming up, they might be without McDavid and Draisaitl. So please, come on, Flames. There's a chance. So that's kind of what the standings are looking like. Obviously, the Blues are in the driver's seat to be in that second wild card right now, but the Flames have a chance with those games in hand. So let's take a look at some odds, and we'll kind of go from less specific to more specific. So first up, when you ask good old artificial intelligence, as of March 24th, 2025, the Calgary Flames' chance of making the NHL playoffs are uncertain and vary across different statistical models. Recent assessments from various sources indicate probabilities ranging from approximately 24% to 42%. If you put all those numbers together, it's a nice palindrome. But either way, it's about a quarter of a chance to almost half a chance that the Flames do make the playoffs. 42, I think, is quite high, but there you go. We're kind of sitting in that range right now. There's definitely a chance. But if we go a little bit more specific, you always got to go to good old Money Puck. And what is Money Puck saying? Feel free to pause, zoom in if you need to. I know the numbers are very small. It kind of shows all the teams somewhat in contention still. Obviously, there's no Blackhawks or Sharks or Sabres on this chart or anything, but if you go into the circle on the very outside of the Money Puck wheel, the Flames have a 33% chance to make the playoffs. So a 1 in 3 chance, essentially, which is funny because there's kind of a 3-horse race, 4-horse race sort of thing. I know if you just completely throw away the stats, that's what it looks like. But the Blues actually have a higher percentage chance, obviously, with more points right now. 43.9% they sit at. So again, the Blues do have the higher odds right now. They do have more points. They've been a hot team lately, but the Flames still have a decent chance, much higher than the Canucks' chances. You can see their little sliver of pie on the pie chart here. So there's a chance. It's funny. Utah is on there as well. They, I think, are right around the same as the Canucks. They're pretty much separated by 0.2% there. But it's really, according to Money Puck, mostly going to come down to a 2-horse race here. The Blues are in the driver's seat right now, but you never know with the Flames. If we want to get even more specific, what's the next place you got to go? Data-driven hockey, of course. And this really shows it. So the playoff probability of all the teams involved in there. So the Wild are essentially guaranteed a playoff spot, whether it's in one of those top 3 spots in the Central, which will be very hard. The Stanley Cup winner could definitely come from one of those 3 spots, but most likely the top wild card. The Blues, 28% chance to make the playoffs, while they have the Flames at 36%. So data-driven hockey, who really dives into the actual stats and data involved in this, they have the Flames having way more percent chance of making the playoffs than the Blues, which is pretty crazy. Now, this screenshot was obviously taken before the Blues beat the Predators. I think most people expected the Blues to beat the Predators, so those numbers might be a little more different now that the Blues are on 81 points, but still, If you look at that column on the right, I think that's what says it all. So the Blues, if they get approximately 8 wins in their remaining 11 games, they should guaranteed make the playoffs, which is now down to 7 wins in their last 10 since they did win. But the Flames, approximately 9 wins in their last 13, which is a tough ask, especially for a team that, seems to only do their scoring in little spurts every now and then. Lately, it's been in comeback fashion, which is great to see. But again, it's interesting to think approximately 9 wins left out of 13. That's a lot to ask for, but you never know. The Flames' schedule is interesting. And in order to kind of make an estimation if the Flames can win 9, well, why don't we just look at the remaining schedule? So if we get into the rest of this month, the last few days here of March, we face the Kraken and Stars at home. So an easier game and definitely a tougher game before going on the road to Edmonton and Colorado, which is obviously a lot tougher. Again, like I said before, Edmonton may not have McDavid and Draisaitl. Colorado, they are hot right now. That is going to be tough. Continuing the road trip into April, on April Fool's Day, the Flames play against Utah, a team I believe we still have never beaten. So essentially, that's a tough matchup as well. But if we get down to the really home stretch of the season here as April continues, there's some easier games. You see the Ducks in there a couple of times. You see the Sharks in there a couple of times. Winnable games. You also see the Golden Knights a couple times, both at home though, which is very interesting to note. Who knows? The Knights maybe will have locked up the Pacific by the end of the season, which could be a very good thing for us. Also face the Wild in there, and then of course the makeup game against the Kings to conclude the regular season on the 17th. So could the Flames win 9? I don't know. There should be at least 4 or 5 kind of guaranteed wins in there, and they might have to gut out some very tough ones down the stretch, but it is possible. And who knows? Obviously, those numbers aren't exact. Maybe they'll have to win more than 9 games. Maybe they'll only have to win 5 and everyone else falls off. It could be interesting, but either way, that's kind of what the playoff odds are looking like. I know it's pretty crazy, but everyone is talking about it. It is pretty insane. So, of course, as Flames fans, we wanted to talk about it as a community, and feel free to do that in the comment section down below. Next item on this video is the offer sheet mayhem we kind of talked about yesterday. Well, guess what? It's getting even crazier after a new report dropped, and it sparks from this article here. So Connor Bedard urged to avoid a Blackhawks contract extension, which is a very interesting, could lead to some nutty offer sheets. So if a team were to give an offer sheet for, say, $7 million, this would be the compensation. So between that range, 6.8 blah 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 mil to 9.1 blah 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 mil, compensation would be a first round pick, 1 second round pick, and 1 third round pick. Doesn't seem like much. It doesn't seem like much for someone who is supposed to be a generational player. Some people have been quite, underwhelmed by Bedard and his play through his first 2 seasons. He has no one around him, so he's still a really, really good player. Put him with a guy like Huberdeau, and that kid could go crazy. But it is true. The Flames have multiple of these picks in each round, so it's definitely possible that they could do it. But obviously this would be going into following years. It would be after this draft, but still, it's something to think about. It is pretty crazy that this offer sheet mayhem could go nuts, and it goes even further than just that. So this article did start by talking about Craig Button. He's the one who was talking about it first. He was pretty much just shitting on the Chicago Blackhawks, I gotta be honest, but I went to a more reliable source and scrolled down a bit till they talked about Elliotte Friedman, the man we actually care about. So Elliotte Friedman echoed that sentiment, appearing on SiriusXM NHL radio, suggesting Bedard might want to wait until the next CBA is finalized, which makes sense. So why would anyone sign before that? Just to see maybe if anything changes, Friedman said. Now, if you get an idea that the rules aren't going to change, then you don't do it. But I did have someone say to me that for a star, for one of the top players, and Bedard is the franchise player in Chicago, you might wait to see if any rules change. Kind of, seeing what little things can be done behind the scenes. A revised CBA could impact offer sheet dynamics or salary structure, which Bedard could benefit from if the Blackhawks are put in a tough position depending on if other franchises submit offer sheets for their young phenom. And I don't think anyone would complain if, the other NHL franchises tried to mess with Chicago a little bit. So who knows? The Flames could be in a prime position to maybe put down an offer sheet for Bedard. I mean, if there was ever a player to do it for, that might be it. He is exactly what Conroy is looking for. He's young, he's a center, and he is absolutely unreal. So I know it's pretty nuts. It's another insane part of the video, but you just never No, which does take us into the comment of the day. It comes from yesterday's video, of course, about all those offer sheets, and boy, it goes perfectly with the last chapter of this video. It comes from Just My Opinion. Just My Opinion says, we don't need D-men. If the offer sheet is not for a number one center, then keep the picks. Well, how do you feel about Bedard then? It could definitely happen. It's nuts to think about. I would love to see Bedard here in Calgary. Obviously, he's Canadian from Vancouver, of course, and Vancouver should honestly send an offer sheet in as well if it comes to it. But hopefully one day, who knows, he could be a Calgary Flame. That is something crazy to think about. Bedard and Wolf leading the franchise. Oh, wait. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe like you saw here today and have a wonderful rest of your day.